Hello everyone, my name is Whita Wulansari. I'm from IUP Class Civil Engineering 2020. I'm here want to explain about the summary of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen R. Covey. So, first of all, I want to explain about this book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen R. Covey. It's a self-improvement book. It is written on Covey's belief that the way we see the world is entirely based on our own perceptions. In order to change a given situation, we must change ourselves, and in order to change ourselves, we must be able to change our perceptions. So in this slide, what habits do highly effective people have? So, Covey believed that the way we see the world is entirely based on our own perceptions, right? So, this book opens with an explanation of how many individuals who have achieved a high degree of outward success still find themselves struggling with an inner need for developing personal effectiveness and growing healthy relationship with other people. So, in studying over 200 years of literature on the concept of success, Covey identified a very important change in the way that humans have defined success over time. In earlier times, the foundation of success rested upon character ethic, like things like integrity, humility, fidelity, temperance, courage, justice, patience, industry, simplicity, modesty, and others. But starting around the 1920s, the way people viewed success shifted to what Covey calls personality ethic, where success is a function of personality, public image, attitudes, and behaviors. The way that we see the way we see the problem is the problem. Covey writes, we must allow ourselves to undergo paradigm shifts to change ourselves fundamentally and not just after our attitudes and behaviors on the surface level in order to achieve true change. These days also people look for quick fixes. They see a successful person, team, or organization and ask, how do you do it? Teach me your techniques. But these shortcuts that we look for, hoping to save time and effort and still achieve the desired result, are simply band-aids that will yield short-term solution. They don't address the underlying condition. So, the next slide, the 7 habits of highly active people are: the first, be proactive. The second, begin with the end in mind. The third, put first things first and think win-win. And then seek first to understand, then to be understood. And then synergies and sharpen the show. The first, we will talk about the be proactive. This is my quick summary. We're in charge. We choose the scripts by which to live our life. Use this self-awareness to be proactive and take responsibility for your choice. The first habit that Covey discusses is being proactive. What distinguishes us as humans from all other animals is our inherent ability to examine our own character, to decide how to view ourselves and our situations, and to control our own effectiveness. Put simply, in order to be effective, one must be proactive, right? Reactive people take a passive stance. They believe the world is happening to them. They say things like, there's nothing I can do. The second, that they always said that that's just the way I am. In order to be proactive, we must focus on the circle on influence that lies within our circle of concern. In other words, we must work on the things we can do something about, like the diagram that I have shown you. Besides, the positive energy we expert will cause our circle of influence to expand. This is the key lesson. There are two key lessons. The first, start replacing reactive language with proactive language. The reactive language is like, he makes me so mad. But the proactive language is, I control my own feeling. And we must to replace that language. Okay. The second is convert reactive tasks into proactive one. All right. Next slide. The second, begin with the end in mind. Start with a clear destination in mind. Coffee says we can use our imagination to develop a vision of what we want to become and use our conscience to decide what values will guide us. Most of us find it rather easy to busy ourselves. We work hard to achieve victories, promotions, higher income, more recognition, but we don't often stop to evaluate the meaning behind the busyness. Behind these victories, we don't ask ourselves these things that we focus on so intently are what really matter to us. Habit suggests habit two. This the begin with the end in mind is a habit two. Okay, so this habit two suggests that in everything we do, we should begin with the end in mind. Start with a clear destination. The way we can make sure the steps we're taking are in the right direction. Beginning with the end in mind is also extremely important for the business. Being a manager is about optimizing for efficiency, but being a leader is about setting the right strategic vision for your organization in the first place and asking, what are we trying to accomplish? Like that. Before we as individuals or organization can start setting the achieving goals, we must be able to identify our values. This process may involve some rescripting to be able to assert our values. This process may involve some rescripting to be able to assert our own personal values. Rescripting, Coffee explained that is recognizing ineffective scripts that have been written for you and changing those scripts by proactively writing new ones that are built of your own value. However, Coffee notes that one of these centers are more are optimal and that instead we should strive to be principle centered. We should identify the timeless, unchanging principles by which we must live our life. This will give us the guidance that we need to align our behavior with our beliefs and values. The three key lessons. The first, Visualize in rich detail your own funeral. Like, who is there? What are they saying about you? About how you live your life? About the relationship you had? What do you want them to say? And think about how your priorities would change if you only had 30 more days to live. Start living these priorities. The second, break down different roles in your life, like whether professional, personal, or community, and list there to 5 goals you want to achieve for each. The third, define what scares you, like public speaking, critical feedback after writing a book. Write down the worst case scenario for your biggest fear, then visualize how you'll handle this situation. And you can write down exactly how you'll handle it. We move on to the next habit. The third habit is put first thing first. In order to manage ourselves effectively, we must put first thing first. We must have the discipline to prioritize our day-to-day actions based on what is most important, not what is most urgent. In habit 2, we already discussed the importance of determining our values and understanding what is we are setting out to achieve. Habit 3 is about actually going after these goals and executing on our priorities on a day-to-day, moment-to-moment basis. In order to maintain the discipline and the focus to stay on track towards our goals, we need to have the willpower, willpower to do something that when we don't want to do it. We need to act according to our values rather than our desires to impulses at any given moment. We react to urgent matters. We spend our time doing things that are not important. That means that we neglect quadrant 2, which is the actually most crucial of them all. If we focus on quadrant 1 and spend our time managing crises and problems, it keeps getting better and getting bigger and bigger until it consumes us. This leads to stress, burnout, and constantly putting out fires. And this is the 3 key lessons about um, put first thing first. The first lesson is identify a quadrant 2 activity you've been neglecting. Like write it down and commit to implementing it. The second, create your own time management metrics to start prioritizing. Okay. The third, estimate how much time you spend in each quadrant. Then, log your time over 3 days. How accurate was your estimate? How much time did you spend in quadrant 2? Like the most important quadrant. Next, first thing first. Okay. So, I put so many points here. Okay, I will explain one by one. In order to establish effective interdependent relationship, we must commit to creating win-win situations that are mutually beneficial and satisfying to each party. Covey explained that there are 6 paradigma of human interaction. First, win-win. Both people win. Agreements or solutions are mutually beneficial and satisfying to both parties. The second, win-lose. If I win, you lose. Win-lose people are prone to use positions, power, credentials, and personality to get their way. The third, lose win. If I lose, you win. Lose win people are quick to please and appease and seek strength from popularity or acceptance. Acceptance. Lose lose. The fourth is lose lose. Both people lose. When to win lose people get together. That is when two determined, stubborn, ego-invested individuals interact. When the result will be lose lose. The next is win. People with the win mentality don't necessarily want someone else to lose. That's irrelevant. What matters is that they get what they want. The last, win-win or no deal. If you can reach the agreement that is mutually beneficial, there is no deal. This is the best option to create is the best option is to create win-win situation with win-lose or lose-win. One person appears to get what he wants for the moment, but the result will negatively impact the relationship between those two people going forward. Wait. The win or no deal option is more important to use a backup when we have no deal as an option in our mind. It liberates us from needing to manipulate people and push our own agenda. We can be open and really try to understand an underlying issues. In solving for win-win, we must consider two factors. The first, consideration, and the second is courage. Take a look on the following chart that I already give to you guys. Okay, you can see that. Next, this is the key lessons from win-win. The first thing about an upcoming interaction, where you'll be attempting to reach an agreement or solution. Write down a list of what the other person is looking for. Next, write a list next to that of how you can make an offer to meet those needs. The second, identify three important relationships in your life. The third, deeply consider of your own interaction tendencies. Are they win-lose, or how does that affect your interactions with others? Or can you identify the source of that approach? Like that. Next, we move on to the fifth habit. This is the seek first to understand, then to be understood. Before we can offer advice, suggest solutions, or effectively interact with another person in any way, we must seek to deeply understand them and their perspective through empathic listening. Let's say you go to an optometrist and tell him what you've been having trouble seeing clearly, and he takes off his glasses, hands them to you, and says, "Here, try this. They have been working for me for years." You put them on, but they only make the problems worse. What are the change you'd go back to the optometrist? Unfortunately, we do the same thing in our everyday interactions with others. We prescribe a solution before we diagnose the problem. We don't seek to deeply understand the problem first. When we listen autobiographically, in other words, with your own perspective as our frame or reference, we tend to respond in one of four ways. First, evaluate. The second is probe, like ask questions from your own frame or reference. And then we give her on him um, some advice, like give counsel based on your own experience, just that, based on your own experience. And then interpret, like try to figure out the person's motives and behavior based on our own motives and behavior. But if we replace these types of response with empathic listening, we see dramatic results in improved communication. It takes time to make this shift, but it doesn't take nearly as long as practice empathic listening as it does to back up and correct misunderstandings, or to live with unexpressed and unresolved problems only to have them surface later on. This is the two key lesson, two key lessons. First, next time if you're watching two people communicating, cover your ears and watch what emotions are being communicated that might not come uh, across through words alone, like that. The second, next time you give presentations and wrote it in empathy, like that. Next, we have synergies or synergies. Okay, the summary. By understanding and valuing the differences in another person's perspective, we have the opportunity to create synergy, which allows us to uncover new possibilities. True opens the creativity. The combination of all the other habits prepares us of habit six, which is the habit of synergy, or when one plus one equals three or more, and the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Synergy allows us to create a new alternatives and open new possibilities. It allows us as a group to collectively agree to ditch an old scripts and write new ones. We seek first to understand, and then we find strength and utility in those different perspectives in order to create new possibilities and win-win results. Synergy also allows you to first value the differences in other people as a way to explain your perspective and sidestep negative energy and look for the good in others, and then exercise courage in interdependent situation to be open and encourage others to be open. Thus, catalyze creativity and find a solution that will be better for everyone by looking for a third alternative. This is the key lesson. First, make it a list of people who irrite you, and then make a list of people with whom you get along well. So, this is the sharpen the saw. Um, to be effective, we must devote the time to renewing ourselves physically, spiritually, mentally, and socially. Continuous renewal allows us to synergistically increase our ability to practice each habit. Habit 7 is focused around renewal, or taking time to sharpen the saw. It surrounds all of the other habits and makes each one possible by preserving and changing your greatest asset, yourself. Next, there are four dimensions of our nature, and each must be exercised regularly and is an in balanced way. The first is physical dimension. The goal of continuous physical improvement is to exercise our body in a way that will enhance our capacity to work, adapt, and enjoy. To renew ourselves physically, we must first eat well, second, get sufficient rest and relaxation, and the third is exercise on regular basis to build endurance, flexibility, and strength. Next is spiritual dimension. The goal of renewing our spiritual self is to provide leadership to our life and reinforce your commitment to our value system. To renew yourself spiritually, you can practice daily meditation, communicate with nature, or immerse yourself in great literature or music. There is the mental dimension, and the goal of renewing our mental health is to continue expanding our mind. To renew yourself mentally, you can read good literature, keep journal of your thoughts, experiences, and insights. Limit television watching to only those programs that enrich your life, that mind and mind. And then we have a social or emotional dimension. The goal of renewing ourselves socially is to develop meaningful relationships. To renew yourself emotionally, you can seek to deeply understand other people, make contributions to meaningful projects that improve the lives of others, and then maintain an abundance mentality to seek to help others and find success. And this is the key lessons of habit 7. First, make a list of activities that would help you renew yourself. Along each of the four dimensions, select one activity for each dimension and list it as a goal for the coming week. Second, commit to writing down a specific sharpen the saw activity. Okay, I think that's all my presentation. Um, Thank you for listening and see you. Bye bye. Thank you.